Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. Cowboy here. And what do we have? We have some data that just came out. A lot of data just came out. And the market is reacting. Although, I like to let the market do its thing before I enter. I did have a nice signal you can see last night on the euro to go long. Also on the JPY to go short at the same time. And that was a nice signal right there. But I could not take that trade. Mostly because I was asleep. Also because I knew that news was coming the next day. If I'm going to trade the European session, I need to be awake for it. I can't just throw a trade on and not worry about it. But whatever news just came out is pretty bearish for the dollar. And that does go along with the interest rate cuts. This should show on the NASDAQ futures in a few minutes. I don't have live data for the NASDAQ futures, so we'll come back to that in a minute. And the real question about the NASDAQ is whether or not it can hold up. Look at the USD JPY headed down, just like I said. Got that signal. Actually, I didn't get a signal overnight. Not a ping, if you will, in the algo for going short on the JPY, but it's headed down nonetheless. And to look at the predictions from yesterday's weekly video, so far so good on that, I think here. Yeah. Okay. Let me change the screen. So this is the video from last night, or the data from the video, where I have the JPY headed down, grinding down, and the euro grinding up, although going up much more quickly than I thought, probably due to the news that we saw this morning. So while we're waiting for the chart to catch up on the NASDAQ, let's take a look at what the data says. I wanted to go long, and I'm glad that I didn't, and I'll show you why in a minute. But the data is a bit mixed in a way. Let's see here. We didn't get our ADP employment change because that was tentative anyway. We still have a lot of data that normally comes out that is not out, and that's because of the whole I think the government shutdown has a lot of data that might be lagging or something. I'm not exactly sure why, but the data that did just come out. Morning, Miko. Thanks for coming in. Average hourly earnings month over month was a little cool. So that's a show that the economy is suffering a little bit. Core retail sales were up. That's a show that the economy is not suffering and doing well. Non-farm employment change, I believe that is more jobs than expected. So 64,000 added jobs rather than 51,000. And look, everybody, I know you're going to tell me, hey, you always say the news is fake and this kind of information is fudged. Fake, fudged, a little, not true. Under any circumstances, whether it's real or not, does not matter. It is what the data says as far as how the charts will react, right? So we're going to just pretend it's real. Retail sales month over month, a little under expected. The unemployment rate a little bit higher than expected. The only number I see here that is remarkably above expected would be the employment change for the non-farm. So a lot of jobs were added compared to what was expected, and also the retail sales. That's gone up a bit rather than expected, and during a holiday season at that. But it's, I'm glad I didn't jump on this trade. We're going to have these weird sort of data coming out, and I know I didn't let you see that screen. I'll just flash it real quick. That's just all the data I read out right there. I'll scroll up so you can actually see the data. It's just mixed data right above my head in the image right there. Something's good, something's bad, but the two main things were the core retail sales and non-farm. They're quite above expected and seem to contribute to the reaction, which already is turning around. So let me share that screen again. The big move up with the euro is already getting stuffed right back down. We do have some more news coming. We have the 7:45 a.m. the PMI Purchasing Managers Index, and there was a lot of that overnight in Europe and British, GBP for like the Germans and such. And the PMI, what that is that's a report that the managers kind of share. The governments will gather data from purchasing managers in several different industries, whether it's goods or services, and that's a good indication as far as how's the economy doing, where are things going to go, right? Okay, so that said, that's going to come out at my time anybody's time really, an hour and 10 minutes from now. So that could affect this. So whatever trades one might take, just be careful as that data comes up in the next hour and 10 minutes. You'll want to protect your positions. However you do that, you got to watch out. Good. So what's next? We got, let's go back to the charts here. Let's see if the data hit. Yeah, so the NASDAQ wasn't really affected, and I didn't expect it to be so. The currency markets are, in a way, a bit more volatile. They're also magnified by a bunch of leverage, and we're not going to get into that. But it does seem that at least some money moved around in the NASDAQ. But as I drew last night in the chart that I'm going to flip over to here, I don't expect a ton of action for the NASDAQ this week. Right now, I could be wrong. Remember, it's the NASDAQ, and it tends to get held up. But it doesn't look like it's being held up right now. Like and this is going back to the beginning of the month. You have lower highs, and you also have everything we've been talking about the Japanese yen carry trade. And so these are two lower highs, with the NASDAQ not able to meet prior highs, right? So we might be looking at a move down here at the end of the year. I don't think there's going to be a Santa rally. In fact, Cool Cat inside the private chat did a really funny post on the Santa rally. I don't know that I'll be able to bring it up. But let's just say it's not a Santa rally right now. Bitcoin, nice little bounce. And I did predict this also in the video last night. This is last night's video data. So a nice bounce. It went even a little bit higher than expected. I'm going to jump over to the charts that I usually do for this show. Looking at Bitcoin on the 30-minute, it actually kind of got stuffed down by that announcement. Or at least it went down at the same time as that news. What we're seeing, though, is it's kind of mixed. It is overall bearish. I will say that Bitcoin is a bit bearish overall. It is in the position, though, to bounce a bit. And anybody who is an Algo Factory member knows exactly what I'm looking at right now. It might take a few days to bounce, if it does. So, 83,000 does kind of have to hold here, though, if we don't want price to go touch 80,000, right? So we're either going to see something like this, maybe, through Christmas, or we're going to see something like this, like down. Now, what happens at 80,000? Look, I'm going to say this. The high time frame is bearish enough to where it could just crush any of the bullish attempts to push price up, right? So we don't know that the bulls will have the ability to hold price up. Even if the bulls kick in, they may just get crushed. We are at the end of the bull market, and the bulls could hold it up. I mean, the daily, daily metrics that we usually look at over at Algo Factory are pretty strong, and this is a daily metric thing that we're looking at. So we could see Bitcoin rally up or drop down. We'll just have to see how that all goes, right? So that said, I think the thing to do with Bitcoin really, and look, this always goes with trading. Strict traders will trade, strict price action traders will trade like supports and resistances. So your typical trader is going to go long. Probably, this is a daily chart, so this is a pretty high time frame chart. So they're probably going to go long at 83,700, right? And they might make a little money on the lower time frame, and even on a higher time frame. It's hard to say what's going to happen. Higher probability they will actually get a profit on the lower time frame at this level, because the market is overall bearish, right? So they're probably going to get, if anything, if price makes its way down here, they might get a little bounce like this, and then maybe down after that. And it might get abbreviated. It might just get stuffed, right? So the overall look is bearish right now, just letting you know. Now, there is always a time when prices are falling that they do push up really hard. For example, this right here, we had price headed down for, gosh, I don't know, going from early October through late November. And then now we've had price kind of push up. I mean, it went from 80,000 up to 95. So that's a good 17%-ish move up. That's big. That's a big move. This little, what we call a bear market rally, where, and I'm not saying Bitcoin's in the bear market, although it very well could be starting that. What I mean to say is that it's a bearish move and it's a bullish push during a bearish move. But what we want to see with this is that if you use a Fibonacci tool, this price almost made it to the 618, right? And this is, if you don't have the training for this, don't think too hard. If you know what I'm doing here, you'll know. But the impulse is from 107.5 all the way down to like 80,000, maybe 80,000.5. So if the retracement can't make it to the 618 and only makes it to the 382, chances are this is a stronger move. And if it does only make it that high and it does continue down, then you're looking at targets down in the anywhere from the low 70s all the way down to the 65,000. Now, these targets can get countermanded by structure, and we have structure 75,000. So if we see Bitcoin break below 80,000, then there's probably going to be a nice bounce at 75,000, and it could last like for weeks. Now, it may continue up and do all kinds of other things. Anything can happen, but this is the reality, right? It's just reality where we are in the market. And a lot of people don't want to hear it or address it, but it is what it is. So we looked today at the euro. NASDAQ wasn't telling us a whole lot at the time. Okay, here we go. Before we hop off the screen. Right now on the daily chart, it actually has a nice little bounce right there. And these are the kind of bounces with NASDAQ that we do tend to see a follow through on the move up, but that's the daily chart, right? So let's see what the 3 hours got a nice little move up, which isn't too different than what we saw when we first opened up the chart. So just to pull back on the higher time frame, I mean, we could see price sort of go back up towards that 25.8. I don't think it's going to happen though. This doesn't look good. And one of the reasons I don't think this looks terribly bullish is the shape of this move. This bull rounded top never looks good on charts. It doesn't mean that the powers that be won't come in and try to rescue it. And they could. And it could be done with all kinds of stuff. It could be done with data, something to do with the Bank of Japan. And that's the last thing I'll talk about before we move over to the private live lab is the Bank of Japan data comes out this week. Comes out. It's a tentative announcement, right? We don't know what time it comes out. It's going to be on their Friday or late Thursday. So it just comes out when it does. If they hike rates, I would expect a lot of blood in the stock market. Last thing I'll say is this is why I'm happy that I did not take that trade, that I was looking at going long and the metrics said to go long. Look at this nasty rejection right there. It's really, really nasty. And that just had to do with everything that the market was saying, taking a trade before the news came out. That's a nasty reversal and rejection. I would have gotten eaten alive had I taken that trade. So, patience and wisdom paid off. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, do the thing. We do have the free algo in the description, right? I'll put that note up here that I usually have. But if you go into the description, I have an algo that I created. And you get to watch me make it on the screen using this software, TradingView. You get to watch me turn it into code using grok.ai. And then you get to watch me, I show you the tools that people use to connect that algo and this screen that you see to their broker so it can trade for them when they're not even sitting there. They could be sleeping, playing golf, whatever it is. Now, the algo that I show you and I build, you have to optimize it for whatever you're trading. So, you never just blindly plug something into your exchange. You have to test it, make sure it's profitable for you and what you're trading. But that's what it is. It's there. It's free. Click the link. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. sharp. Thanks for watching. Never forget.
Join us or die.
Just kidding. You're not going to die. We love you.